Tracy Hawlett and J.B. Beasley were both rising seniors at Northview High School in Dothan, Alabama. They were last seen at the Big Little store in Ozark, Alabama, where Tracy called her mom to say they were going to be late for curfew. That was 11:38 p.m.
Case that has baffled the city of Ozark. Two girls were going to a party and never made it. They were found in the trunk of one of the girls' car just off Herring Avenue. Police say they were shot.
JB's mother, Cheryl, is with us today.
Burgoon and
Cheryl,
several other families were asked to be on the Maury Show for a segment entitled, I Need to Solve My Child's Murder.
I knew her soul, and she knew mine.
What I focus on now is my two little boys and their life, because they deserve the same childhood that Tracy had when she was growing up. I had 3 priceless possessions.
Both Hawlett and Beasley had good reputations in the community, made good grades, and were not known to associate with criminal types.
Tracy and JB was not out looking for drugs and alcohol like some certain person has insinuated. The autopsy showed no alcohol and no drugs in their body, and I want to clarify that.
With no known motive, the case has baffled the police for nearly 2 decades.
We continue to touch this very, very daily. Everyone from our agency to state agencies, federal agencies are very actively involved.
Police have yet to figure out a motive for the killings, and although it has been 15 years, police still have faith in finding a culprit.
Jackie and her sisters have had to grow up without a big sister. My 2 boys have had to grow up without a big sister.
I knew that something was up, and I mean something was weird. The car broke down, or something like that. But this is Dothan, Alabama. That I never once thought that I would get the call that said they were dead.
The girls had planned for JB to sleep over at Tracy's house on her 17th birthday, so the next morning on Sunday, August 1st, they could attend church together.
They parked Tracy's car and they went in JB's, and I said, Mike, the girls aren't home. And I knew something was wrong. Tracy never missed a curfew. And I knew if she missed this curfew, that something beyond her control was keeping her, Never had no problems with her missing curfews or not coming home when she was supposed to, so I knew. Maybe call it mother's instinct or gut feeling, but I knew that there was something beyond her control keeping her from being there.
First communion dress for the Catholic Church. That is her glove. The other one is in a box back there. I couldn't find it, and it's filthy, and her shoes are filthy because that was JB. Even at church, she was like I was a tomboy growing up, so, she was just running and going and, and her shoes are filthy and her gloves are filthy, and I didn't wash it. I put it in there just like that. Other mothers would have washed it white clean and put it in there, but I never dreamed that she'd be dead. And then that would be a beautiful memory, you see.
She would always volunteer to do the dishes. We would clear the table and she'd put them in there, and then I would look over and she'd have her hair, this shirt all wrapped up on her head like she's hired help, going, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. I'm like, oh my God. Just like just funny. We never had an argument. We never had a disagreement or an argument.
Tracy had a nickname of DD, and at the time I didn't know what it meant, and then her friends told me, they said, Miss Carol, that means designated driver. Said Tracy was always our DD.
Jackie turned 10 years old on the day her sister's body was found. She recalls a special connection with JB, whose murder still haunts her.
I didn't sleep for 2 days. I was cutting these out, and I'd throw them on there, and I was like, it's not good enough. And so I would just get pissed. And Joe was like, how hard is it to glue a picture and just do it? And I was like, I want it to be perfect. I want it to be perfect. Because I want my sisters to be able to see all of this. I want it to be laid out. So there it is.
She was a great dancer. If there was a piece that needed anger and an attack of movement, she could do that. And or if it was a very soft, beautiful piece, she could be delicate. She had a great talent for expression on stage. You know, she was so funny. She was so funny. I miss her asking me what side the fork goes on, because she would always set the table, and every night she'd be like, what side does the fork go on? And I would, you know, I'd look at her and she'd just die laughing.
Every year, Jackie holds a car wash with the hopes of keeping her sister's case alive.
Look at that, feeding Jillian. Jillian with her baby. They'd go suntanning together. There's a video, we have a home video where she's like, come on, Jilly, come on. And she's got a little towel wrapped around her, and JB puts some sunglasses on her, and she's running with the sunblock. So cute. Oh yeah.
Chris Rocco, a deputy for the Houston County Sheriff's Department, was assigned to the murders of JB and Tracy in 2001 as an agent for the FBI Violent Crimes Task Force.
It's been 16 years, and these families have no closure, none. And I was hoping that as a team we could have provided that, but that did not happen.
Cheryl is the mother of 5 daughters. JB was her oldest child. When JB was murdered on her 17th birthday, her sisters were 11, 9, 6, and 4.
I can't always choose not to think about it, you know. There are those days it's like it's thinking about you, whether you're thinking about it or not. And, you know, you're just in it for the ride, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Grief has its own motor, so its own RPMs, its own reasons. When grief happens, it happens.
10 p.m. JB and Tracy leave Tracy's house to go to a party in nearby Headland, Alabama. At about 10:30 p.m., they see friends at a local gas station in Headland. The friends are headed to the same party. JB tells the friends that they couldn't find the party and were going to meet another group of friends in Midland City, a 15-minute drive away. Around 11:15 p.m., the girls were seen at another field party in Echo, Alabama, which was a 20-minute drive from the gas station in Headland. At 11:38, Tracy called her mother, Carol, from a payphone at the Big Little store in Ozark, Alabama, 15 minutes from the party in Echo.
I had just got home and the phone rang, and it was Tracy. And she called on. She had her own number. She had her phone in her room, and she had her own separate number. And it was so rare, you know, that she would, if she was going to be late or something, she'd call on the main line. But she called on her phone, and one of the boys ran back there and answered it and brought it to me, and it was Tracy. And it was 11:35, and she's, you know, I was very strict about her curfew. It was always 11:30, and so, and she called and she said, Mama, she said, we never made it to the party. We couldn't find it. And she said, then we got directions to 231, and we're on our way home. And that's the last I heard from her.
During the call, Tracy told her mother they planned to drive south down Highway 231 to meet 2 boys at a Shell station in Midland City, which was on their way home to Dothan. The boys waited until 12:30 a.m., but left when the girls never showed.
And I got up, and the porch light was still on, and the light over the stove was still burning in the kitchen. The boys were asleep. And I went and woke Mike up. I said, girls aren't home. You know, they parked Tracy's car and they went in JB's. And I said, Mike, the girls aren't home. And I knew something was wrong. I mean, Tracy never missed a curfew.
She was at Joey's that weekend because she wanted to be there for Jo Beth's birthday, your birthday, Jackie's birthday. Jackie's birthday on Sunday. Hers was on Saturday and yours was on Sunday. And your grandmother was making arroz con pollo. Because I said, come on, you don't want to go to the beach? And she was like, are you kidding? That's my grandmother's making my favorite thing, and I want to celebrate with Jackie. And so I said, okay.
Patty had surveillance at her house. So it shows JB coming in, goes inside for a little bit, probably getting ready, and then it shows her leaving, and it shows that her rearview mirror was intact with purple beads hanging from it. When they found the car, it was broken off and thrown in the floorboard. And the profiler said, A, the person driving the car couldn't look at themselves. B, JB kicked it off fighting for her life.
Tracy's parents, Carol and Mike, continue to grieve the loss of their oldest child.
But you know, for so long, I had the same dream. Every night that I would go to sleep, I would see Tracy running, and she was screaming. And they told us that they believed Tracy ran, because she had briars on her pants, and they were wet, and she had just bought some new shoes the week before. We had bought her some new shoes. They were muddy and dirty, and they told us, they said, you know, from everything we can figure out, Tracy ran. And I would have that same dream every night.
What happened was Cheryl picked me and allowed me to have custody of JB when the first thing exploded and she was thrown out of the house and it was raining and it was bad and JB, I think, went to your house first, and your dad realizing this was not going to be neutral territory suggested that JB call me. And I talked to Brett, and Brett said, of course we'll take her. I mean, you couldn't have had, that's another thing, you could not have had a more perfect child.
Who did it? Who did it? I couldn't go in the grocery store. I'd fall to the floor crying. I didn't want to stop and get gas. I was scared.
Following an incident in July of 1998, JB was removed from Cheryl's custody pending a court case with DHR, the Department of Human Resources.
He came and got us at 6 o'clock. We left. We get back to our house, and I realized I left my Frankel. So Daddy gets in the car, drives me over there, and we see JB coming out with garbage bags, packing her car down. I run inside to get my Frankel, and my dad was like, what's going on? She comes over, she's crying, and she said my mom jumped her. Literally, got on top of her, and JB was, fighting for her life. So they call the police, they call DHR, they immediately take her out of my mom's custody, and Patty became her temporary custodial parent, or whatever you would call it. She would stay with Patty one weekend, her real dad one weekend, and then one weekend at my mom's. And half the time when she would be at my mom's, she'd come back early. My mom had bruises here and on the inside of her thigh where JB literally kicked her off of her. And she was saying how JB attacked her, and so she was fighting back, but when you hear JB's story, my mom threw her down and was beating the shit out of her.
Patty's the dance teacher that, see, all my girls danced at her studio. And, Joey got JB to come to his house and call DHR. And we had a court day, and I said, she can't stay with the stepfather. He's the next stepfather. She's not staying over there. But I don't know how Patty came into the mix of, okay, I'll let her stay with Patty.
We went back to the second court case. The judge looked at her grades, which were straight A's, and said, she is thriving in this environment. I award custody to Brett and Patty Simpson to the end of school.
When JB was removed from Cheryl's custody in 1998, she met monthly for court-mandated family counseling sessions.
Counselor said, well, the only way you guys are going to mend a relationship is if you can get back in the house with each other. So one day a week she was spending with Cheryl, and then every weekend she rotated me, Lanier, Joey, me, Lanier, Joey, me, Lanier, Joey.
And I said, you better be home at curfew or I'm going to ruin your social life. Because she was oppositional defiant. You know, she was starting to try her wings, you know. Honey, she hit that door right on curfew. She probably was around the corner trying to get extra time. You know how kids do. If she was with me, I bet you she'd have hit curfew and she wouldn't be dead.
9 a.m. Cheryl receives a call from Patty while working in the tennis shop at the Dothan Country Club. Patty calls to tell Cheryl that JB hadn't come home the night before.
I called her. She was working in the tennis shop at the Dothan Country Club, and I called her because Carol had called me, and she burst into tears and was saying, she's dead, she's dead, she's dead. And it had never crossed my mind that she was dead.
Soon after the phone call from Patty, Cheryl went to Tracy's parents' house. It was the first time they had met JB's mom.
When I went to Carol's house to meet her, to make sure she had family, because I was going home by myself and call my friends and all her friends and see if anybody knew, if they'd seen her, knew where she was, you know.
I don't even know how she found out where we lived, but she come to the house, her and this woman, and knocked on the door, and I went to the door, and she introduced herself as who she was, you know, and I invited her in. And she started, you know, she said, well, I wouldn't put it past JB to run away. And I said, well, Tracy wouldn't be running away.
According to the police report made at Carol and Mike's home that morning, when Cheryl arrived, she said that JB had been exhibiting bizarre behavior lately and wouldn't put running away past her. However, at that point, Cheryl had not seen her daughter for several weeks.
I said, Tracy don't have no problems at home. And she said, well, I think we should call DHR.
Alton Miller was there.
Yeah.
She told him that.
Yeah, and I said, you can leave and go to your house and call DHR. DHR ain't got no business in my house. We ain't got no problems with DHR because there's no problems in our house with our family. And there's no problems with Tracy. And I can assure you, Cheryl, Tracy did not run away. You know, it was, well, we just need to get, I said, well, you go back to your house and you call whoever you want to call. I said, but, and she tried to get Alton to call him.
Yeah.
And Alton said, I ain't call it DHR. I mean, she did not have custody of JB.
Nobody has worked harder or longer on this case than Chris Rocco. The murders of JB and Tracy have haunted Chris for 17 years.
Ozark PD had never had anything like this happen as far as this to the death. You know, I mean, they had work murders and stuff like that. Every agency in the area probably has. But when this happened, I had no idea what to do.
The car was found by Ozark police at 9 a.m., but was not opened until 2 p.m. by Houston County agent Alton Miller.
Ozark, I said, in Ozark. The car's in Ozark now. And he said, yeah, they found it.
When a suspicious vehicle is discovered unlocked with belongings inside, one of the first procedures is to check the trunk.
Said that they didn't have a key to open the trunk, so they couldn't get it open.
For 6 hours?
For 6 hours. And all they had to do was smash it up.
I mean,
They done been inside the car, all outside the car with that
Leaning
leaning
all
on
over.
it, hands on it, and everything else. No gloves at all. Fingerprints everywhere.
Rex Tipton, he was going to have the car towed to Patty Simpson's house, the foster parent of J.B. Beasley, from Ozark to Dothan. Now imagine how fucked up that crime scene would have been once that car was towed with 2 dead girls in the back. That would have been some fucked up shit right there, right?
It would have. So they find the car about 9 o'clock and they're instructed to just
Sit on it. Just watch it. See if they come back.
2 teenage girls are not going to leave their purses in an unsecured car with money in their purses.
One to have down.
Yeah, they don't.
Cars don't bleed. There was blood all up underneath, and they're sitting on top of my sister's car smoking a cigarette and climbing through it without gloves, just fiddling through their purse, going all over everything. Patty said she'd never seen anything like it. When she pulled up, there's at least 28 officers out there. She said before we left, all 28 of them got fingerprinted and eliminated from the scene. She was like, why would they do that? Immediately, let's hurry up and get all the officers so that they don't think it was any of us.
I asked him, I said, why is it that Dothan went up there and they wore gloves? Everything y'all did, you didn't never put on a pair of gloves. That wasn't part of our procedure. I said, well, I never have been in law enforcement in my life, and I know better than that. And I said, I bet it's your procedure now, ain't it? Yeah, we wear them now.
And the guy that went up there, he came by the house first, and he was a friend of ours, and he said, I haven't heard anything. He said, I'm going up there. And so he went up there, he said, and he parked behind the car and said he sat there, just looking at it, and he said he noticed some mud back on the bumper, and said he was just looking at things, and said he got out, said he got a pair of gloves and put them on, and said then he went up there and he said his wife had a car similar to that. It was a Mazda also, and he said so he knew there was a trunk release right there on the dash or something. Anyway, it was on the door, and he said he just reached in there with his gloved hand and mashed the trunk release, and when he did, he found him.
I said, did you find the girls? Who are you? I told him who I was, and he said, you wait right here. I said, have you found the girls or not? He said, you wait just right here. I'm going to get the chief. So the chief come up there with Spivey with a Dothan policeman. And I asked him, I said, have you found the girls? Yeah. They both dead. They've been shot in the head. Just like that. People don't believe that that's the way it was.
It's probably the most solvable case I've ever seen. If evidence would have been collected properly, the integrity of the investigation would have been held together.
One of the major misconceptions told to the public by Ozark Police Chief Tony Spivey was that this was a sexually motivated murder. He announced in a press conference regarding traces of semen found on JB's shirt and bra that we find who put the DNA there, we find the killer. The theory that this was a sexually motivated crime has been refuted by both FBI and ABI experts.
Integrity of the case was compromised by Ozark PD when they ruled out every fingerprint of all of Ozark PD. It was compromised when they had a shell casing and they sent it to ballistics instead of forensics because they had a thumbprint on that shell casing, and that was compromised.
I'm not going to mention any names, but I will say this. Power and money covers a lot of things up. That's all I got to say about that.
Mm-hmm. It's been very hard to grieve anyways, having 4 children.
do you balance having the kids not being overprotective while still allowing them to do some things?
That's what I mean. It gets so heavy. I mean, just a trip around the block. Mother, can we ride our bikes around the block? And I just want to go through orbit. Didn't you learn anything? You know, and so I have to hold my tongue a lot. Then I wonder, have I done the right thing because I held my tongue? So I second guess myself 100 times. I mean, as parents, we do that anyways. You second guess yourself. Oh, God, I hope we're doing the right thing. You know, you go on and on about how you're raising your children, and you share with each other, are we doing the right things? Well, when JB died, I realized I did the right things. Well, now, you know, the others aren't near as rebellious as JB was. JB was like a fun rebellious all through her life. You know, when I said she was a hard child to raise, she was hard because she was just had a rebellious streak pretty much her whole life.
Cheryl said she was defiant.
That is the biggest bunch of bullshit ever. Sorry, put that thing over my mouth, but that is what drives me out of my mind. That child was never late for curfew. It was yes ma'am, no ma'am, all the way. She did stuff she wasn't even asked to do.
Who lets the children out after 10 o'clock at night to go to a field party? What mother, what parent? You got somebody else's child. People have asked me, why isn't Carol crucified? See, Carol won't grieve with me either. And she was real ugly to me in front of the police. And I said, you know, I have a problem with you people didn't wait up for those girls. If they called at 11:30 and curfew was 11 or 11:30, one or the other, first of all, and it's your daughter, and your daughter's all, what is your daughter doing running with mine who's not doing good things right now anyways? And they're mad at me that I'm honest about this. See, they think I'm talking ugly about their child, and I'm not.
I have been in very close touch with the couple that did have custody of JB and were giving her a home at the time, and I love them dearly. And Cheryl's ex-husband, he is also a very, very dear friend of ours, and we stay in close touch.
I remember it like it was yesterday, and she made a friend bring us to the funeral home. And we're sitting in the lobby, and she comes out and she's like, okay, y'all, come on. And we're like, where are we going? She's like, just come with us. And I look at my dad, and she's like, we're gonna go see JB. And my dad's like, come on, you know. And so I'm holding my daddy's hand. We go in there, and she has it set up for us to see my sister in the casket with a bullet in her face.
Show for a segment entitled, I Need to Solve My Child's Murder.
I knew her soul, and she knew mine.
During the show, Burgoon was able to speak matter-of-factly about her daughter's case and the emotional bond she felt with the other parents and her distress over not having that kind of relationship with Tracy Hollett's family.
We could be strong and not cry and let the other one cry. You know, if I cried, they stopped crying and let me cry. You can have the most compassion to those other mothers, which really put the pressure on why Carol won't see me, won't talk to me.
Burgoon feels the emotional ties formed with the parents of other murdered children helps to serve as a life preserver when she's struggling to get by.
Well, you say you wouldn't be here. Do you mean that figuratively, or do you mean that literally?
I mean, go. You want to die. You want to die. I think your chances of taking your life are in the 90% if you don't have something to bring you back. When it's that child, your child.
That is a struggle that is pushed forward by her 4 children and a need to protect them.
Our kids are not
safe. I hate it when people say,
888-45-MARY.
Hello. This is her.
Given of Cochran, Cherry, Givens, and Smith.
I can't talk to you right now. I can't pay the note. You know, my daughter was murdered. We're going to court over it. Make Joey pay it. Get all the money you can from him. That's who I'm suing to make pay it anyways.
And our show was just on TV just now, and that's what we're doing, watching, and I didn't know that you might be one of the other mothers.
I would say I started coming back into my mind the day of JB's funeral because Matt.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, yes. I was called and told I was not welcome to come. And Cheryl.
Remember my dad rode in the hearse? He told me that he flagged down the hearse before they left to go to the burial site and popped his head in the door and he said, "Hey, got room for one more person?" And the guy just looked at him like, "What?" He said, "Okay, sure." My dad jumped in and he said, "I wanted to be as close to her as possible." And the guy said that never in his years of driving for, the funeral home has he ever had a parent do that. But I thought that was sweet. My dad said, "I want to ride with my daughter one last time."
When she was at our house or she was around Tracy, JB was no problem.
I've never had
We never had any problems with her. She Tracy never said anything negative about her. So, you've got one person out here, her mother, that has just degraded her and talked about her from day one, and yet nobody else has ever said anything negative about JB. That ought to tell people something. That, this is a one-sided story.
I mean, I know that she really and truly probably agreed to that whole business of trying to talk to her mom because of me, because they had zero relationship. Zero. There were no phone calls. There were no visits. Cheryl never once stepped foot in my house from the time JB moved in. She did come over to my house one time after she died, and I can't remember why. I just remember, the only thing I remember about that was I was very shocked at how unbelievably skinny she was. And I said, "Cheryl, are you okay?" I said, you got to eat. And she said, "My doctor told me if I drink V8, I'll be fine." Now, why I remember that, I don't know. But that's like a fact. That's what I remember. Because I remember thinking, with vodka, because she was probably didn't need to be behind the wheel that late afternoon.
In a bedroom filled with photos and mementos of her children, Cheryl Burgoon settled in to watch another nationally televised account of how her daughter J.B. Beasley and Tracy Hollett were murdered.
J.B.'s mother Cheryl is with us.
A year after the murders, Cheryl appeared on the popular TV show Maury Povich, where she was interviewed by America's Most Wanted host John Walsh. According to the transcript of that appearance, Cheryl holds a pair of pointe shoes and describes them as the last pair of pointe shoes that JB bought, but never had a chance to wear. The Thursday before the murders, JB bought new pointe shoes from the local shop Dance Bar. She left them in the backseat of her car for her dance rehearsal the following week. After the show aired, Patty recognized the shoes as possibly the ones missing from JB's car.
When I finally watched the interview, and she had those pointe shoes, and it like the words completely went away, and I was thinking, how do you have those pointe shoes? There's no way you should have those pointe shoes because dancers never apart with their shoes. And so I called up a friend with the FBI and I said, can you take a tape and, you know, enhance it and zoom in and give me the brand name on these point shoes? And he said, sure. And I remember he met me there at 11 o'clock at night. And we looked at it, and the next day I went to LeBeau's Dance Bar, right down here, and I said, can you pull the receipt? Because they keep the actual, and the carbon was, you know, given to the customer. And she said, yes, she bought, you know, Block's point shoes.
According to the FBI's list of the car's contents, the shoes were missing, but the shoebox, receipt, and shopping bag remained.
One thing's for sure, she shouldn't have had the point shoes. I don't know how she got them, but she shouldn't have had them.
You saw her in the video film from WDHM when they went and they interviewed her in her bedroom. And it showed her, and it showed the point shoes, the brand new point shoes that were in the trunk. You saw her. She's brazen. She's got the evidence right there. And still on the bed with her hat, with her floppy hat on and all that stuff, and she was to a T dressed, but you surprised her. But see, she's been out of the news for so long that she was like, ooh, 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 camera. Let me put back on my victim face. Me, 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 me.
The Monday following the murders, Cheryl called Allstate to inquire about JB's life insurance policy. Allstate informed Patty of this call as she was JB's legal guardian at the time.
I'm going to tell you, for 2 days, I didn't know my name. I was numb. It was just like numb. I was on 24-hour watch, you know, just like, you need to eat, you need to stand up, you need to take a bath. I mean, just like that. She had the wherewithal on Monday morning to call and see what the life insurance policy was on JB.
You connect the feeling with what they did, of course. But if you felt nothing when they did it, well, it didn't hurt you. But if you could actually connect that feeling, then you've done something to somebody. You've either made them feel very, very good or very, very bad.
In 2015, Jackie met with Barry Tucker, the now retired agent at the Alabama Bureau of Investigation.
I talked to the ABI officer, and because I had all these questions raised about Mom and Donovan, I was like, well, how about I let you talk to Barry Tucker? He was the ABI agent that went out there, and he's been working this case since day one. He's retired, but he'll talk to you. So we set up a meeting, and the second I walk in and I mention her name, before I can finish my sentence, he cuts me off, and he was like, it wasn't your mom. Your mom's crazy. She's always been crazy, but it wasn't your mom. And he's got tunnel vision. He's been working it so long that he just thinks that this is what happened, and he's not willing to hear anything else. Nothing else. He thinks whoever put that DNA there is who is the shooter, who committed this crime. And I wanted him to just hear me out, but he pretty much let that theory die. So then when I left there, I'm like, okay, she didn't do it. She probably is just crazy. But then it kept getting worse with her. It kept getting worse. And nobody would hear me out about her mother. They're like, there's no way a parent can do this. And I'm like, you guys see this on TV all the time. Why is this irrelevant to this case?
During their last counseling session before the girl's murder, Cheryl said to her ex-husband Joey, quote, JB's blood will be on your hands.
It's like I feel like a shined rabbit. You know what that is, don't you? Mm-hmm. Guys that go hunting, it's not a very nice way to go hunting. If you take a light and shine it in a rabbit's eyes, he'll freeze and then you can shoot him. Yeah, so it's a terminology in the country, you know, shined rabbits. Mm-hmm. I feel like a shined rabbit, like the light's on me and I'm just frozen
And you just have to feel whatever, whatever that funnel's funneling down, and it's just hang on for dear life the best way you can.
She had the most controversy with her. There was nobody else that hated her. Nobody else was feuding with her. JB didn't tick people off. She wasn't having sex with somebody who was married. Who truly had it out for her? One person, and everybody knew it. When we were growing up, my mom was the PTA mom. She took us to soccer, basketball, violin lessons, did it all. She hand smocked our dresses. We all had hair bows. We were all dressed so perfectly and alike. But she was a raging alcoholic, and as a child, you don't see the signs or know what's going on. She would beat us we'd get spankings with a fly swatter or stuff like that, not like a switch, but she would get a belt that had jewels all around the end, all around it, and she'd whip my back, my butt. She beat Jamie so hard that she had blue stripes all over her backside that she couldn't sit down, like whelps.
JB and Tracy were murdered on July 31st, 1999. Cheryl Burgoon, JB's mom, would face her daughter in court on Monday, August 10th, 1999, 1 week after her murder. The court docket reads, August 10th, 1999, case dismissed as moot. The case was dismissed because JB was no longer able to testify against her mother.
It wasn't until JB died and we were removed from my mother's custody that we realized how bad off she was. Nobody in the community really knows what went on behind the scenes. Still to this day. JB was scared of her, which would explain why there was no sexual activity, why there was no sign of struggle, why there was no money missing, why that no jewelry was taken. Just a quick boom, boom out. Wanted this person, the profiler said this person wanted them dead. They didn't want anything else from them.
And they connected in those children emotionally. It's called emotional incest. I asked my professor about that. I said, what do you think about emotional incest? He said, shoot 'em. And I agree.
I was 14. I walk in the door, I hurry up and grab the plate of food of leftovers, to get ready to go feed the dogs, and before I can get out there, she's walked into the room. It was dark, all the lights were off. She walked in the room and punched me in the face, and then punched me again, and I fell back and hit the door and then fell to the floor. And when the knock on the door came, I went to the door ready to go with them, and the cop walked in and saw my face. And she's right behind me, and he said, what did you do to her? And she said, I beat the shit out of her. I hit her. He said, so you hit her? And she said, yeah, I hit her. He said, you're coming with me. She said, no, I'm not. And she took off running to the back of the house. So by the time my dad gets there, DHR gets there, the police get there, and they arrest her. They get all of our stuff and go. JoBeth tells our attorney, when my mom walked into the back of the room, she was on the phone with somebody, and she said, I'm going to kill Jackie and I'm going to bury her. So when they went to court, they put her on the stand and they asked her, and she said, yeah, I said that.
I had to feed somebody's dog. He had just lost his mother in Colorado. It's a friend of mine. Will you feed my dog while I'm gone? Oh, sure, go. bury your mother. So then I went to the block party. Well, I said, I'll stop at Poplar Head and have a beer before I go home. That was way back then. And everybody there said, oh, come on, go to the block party with us. Your kids aren't coming home till tomorrow. They were gone for the month. It was the summertime, and Joey had his 4 girls for the month. And I said, oh, no, I need to go home. I'm working the tennis tournament. I'm tired. No, go. I said, all right, I'll go for a few minutes. And there was a friend of mine, Mace Holman. He and I were the 2 old people there. I was 39, and he was, I think, in his 60s. And I said, Mace, do you realize we're the oldest 2 here? And it was just teenagers everywhere, you know. And I said, I feel out of place. I said, I wouldn't doubt it if JB was here. It's her birthday today. And he goes, you see her? You see her? I said, no, you see her? And he just kept, I said, would you shut up? I said, when I see her, I'll tell you. You know, older folks, you know. And of course, a lot of people from the club, the younger ones in the tournament were out there too, you know. So, and it was like, I didn't get off like 10:20, so it was almost 11, and you're just standing there watching and listening to the band. You got a beer in your hand, and you're just watching. Time flies, and all of a sudden, something went over me, and I said, I got to go home. It was like you can go home now. Now that she's dead and it's all happened, I remember that feeling of, you can go home now. You can. I told the police that. I said, I can go home now because she was already dead. And I've lived with that for years and years. I was so into that child, and that child knew I was so into her, and she loved me. She just, a teenager wanting to get set free.
In 2001, Cheryl sued DHR for $10 million in a wrongful death lawsuit, claiming her daughter's murder was the result of not being properly supervised. The case went to the Alabama Supreme Court, but was eventually dismissed.
Do you think her murder will be solved?
I wish it would. Oh my God, I wish it would. So everybody could shut up. Or the very beautiful people that are grieving it too can know, and they can have some closure. It's not going to be over with for me. I'm going to have a face. I'm going to have nightmares. I'm going to dream everything he did to my daughter. Is God not letting it be solved to hold me right now? Is that what's going on? I don't know. It's not because I don't want it solved. I want it solved. My hell's just beginning.